chosen ones. Stop everything. Have you been crying out to God for 40 years, and He's been silent? Have you watched everyone around you get their breakthrough while you're still waiting in the same desert? Have you ever wondered if you're the one believer God decided to forget? Listen to me very carefully. This is not just another video. This is a divine interruption. God Himself pressed pause on your life to speak to you right now. If this video found you at 2 a.m. when you couldn't sleep, if it appeared in your feed while you were crying, if something pulled you here when you should be doing something else, it's not the algorithm, it's heaven's call. Picture this. A phone rings at 3 in the morning. Your heart stops. You know it's not spam. It's not a wrong number. Someone needs you urgently. That's what's happening right now in the spiritual realm. God is calling you with a message that cannot wait until tomorrow. 3 nights ago, I was awakened by what I can only describe as the thunder of the Almighty. And what He showed me about you. About your tears that you thought went unnoticed. About the prayers you whispered when everyone was asleep. It will leave you breathless. Here's the shocking truth they don't want you to know. You haven't been forgotten. You've been hidden. Like a sword being forged in fire, every tear you've cried has been shaping you into a weapon heaven is about to unleash. Type Amen in the comments if you feel this tug in your spirit right now. Hit that like button not just as support, but as a declaration that you are ready to receive what God has been holding back until this exact moment. Before we go deeper, I want to pause and thank every single one of you who has supported this message through super thanks. Your generosity means more than you know. You're not just donating, you're helping spread light to others who feel alone in their calling. Whether you give or not, I'm deeply grateful for your presence here. Your support, your time, your attention, it all matters. And if this message resonates with your soul, go ahead and sow that seed of faith. Because what I'm about to reveal will shatter every lie you've believed about your delay and show you why your greatest hour isn't behind you. It's right now. Have you ever wondered if God looks at your wrinkled hands and thinks your work is finished? Have you whispered prayers into the darkness at 3 a.m., wondering if heaven still has your address? Have you buried so many dreams with the people you've buried that you've forgotten what hope feels like? Stop right there. Listen to what I'm about to tell you, because it will shatter every lie you've believed about your purpose. You didn't stumble onto this message. You weren't randomly scrolling when this appeared. 3,000 miles away from you right now, there's an 87-year-old woman in Michigan who clicked on this same video while tears streamed down her face, convinced she was worthless. In Florida, a 73-year-old man just hit play while sitting in his late wife's chair, wondering if God even remembers his name. This is not coincidence. This is divine appointment. Imagine finding an old letter hidden in a drawer for decades. Your hands shake as you unfold it, and there's your name, written in elegant script. But here's what stops your heart. It's dated 50 years ago, yet it speaks to exactly what you're facing today. That letter exists, beloved. It's called Psalm 139:16, and it says, "All the days ordained for me were written in your book before one of them came to be. Your pain today was seen by God before you were born. Your loneliness tonight was known by the Almighty before the foundations of the world." But here's what will change everything. So was your breakthrough. You've been living like you're invisible, haven't you? When was the last time someone asked for your opinion and actually listened? When did society start treating you like furniture, like you're just taking up space until you're called home? The cashier at the grocery store talks over you. Your own grandchildren check their phones while you're speaking. You feel like a ghost haunting your own life. But God sees you, right now, this second. As you're listening to these words, the Creator of the universe is looking directly at you with the same intensity He had when He formed you in your mother's womb. Why now? Why today? Why you? Because, dear chosen one, what the world calls your sunset years, God calls your power years. What society labels as decline, heaven declares as refinement. You think your best days are behind you? God is about to prove that your most important days are ahead of you. The enemy has been lying to you. He's whispered that your prayers bounce off the ceiling because you're too old to matter to God anymore. He's convinced you that your tears are wasted because who cares about another senior citizen's pain? He's made you believe that your dreams died with your spouse, your health, your energy. Every single word is a demonic deception. Listen to what Jesus said in Luke 18:7. Will not God bring about justice for his chosen ones who cry out to him day and night? Chosen ones, that's you. Not chosen when you were 20 and full of energy. Chosen now. Chosen at 70, 80, 90 years old. Chosen when your body aches and your heart breaks and your world feels smaller every day. You've survived the Great Depression, world wars, the Kennedy assassination, 9/11s, global pandemics. You've buried parents, siblings, friends, maybe even children. You've weathered divorces, job losses, health crises that would have destroyed weaker souls. Do you think God put you through all that just to discard you when you needed him most? The truth is explosive. God has been preparing you your entire life for this moment. Every trial was training. Every loss was preparation. Every year you've lived has been adding authority to your prayers, weight to your words, power to your faith. Right now, this very second, heaven is moving on your behalf. Not because you're perfect, but because you're proven. Not because you have all the answers, but because you've learned to trust the one who does. Not because your body is strong, but because your spirit has been forged in fires that would have consumed those who never learned to depend on God alone. You want to know why you're here? Why this message found you today? Because God is about to use your final act to overshadow everything that came before. Moses was 80 when God called him to deliver a nation. Sarah was 90 when she became pregnant with the promise. Anna was 84 when she recognized the Messiah. Your age isn't your expiration date, it's your graduation day. The world needs what you carry. Your wisdom earned through decades of walking with God. Your faith tested by fires and found genuine. Your prayers seasoned with tears and sweetened with worship in the midnight hour. You are not a burden to this generation. You are the answer to their prayers. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit right now. Time is shorter than you think. Not your time on earth, but time for the assignments God has waiting for you. The harvest is ripe, but the laborers are few, and God is looking for workers who know the difference between religion and relationship, between church attendance and true faith, between hoping God exists and knowing He's alive. That's why your heart is pounding right now. That's why something deep in your spirit just came alive, because you're not here to be comforted in your final years. You're here to be commissioned for your finest hour. The question that will determine everything is this: will you keep believing the lie that your season is over? Or will you finally embrace the truth that God saved His most powerful assignments for the ones who've learned to trust Him completely? Dear chosen one, I need you to think back to the darkest moment of your life. Maybe it was when you held your spouse's hand as they took their final breath. Maybe it was when the doctor looked you in the eyes and said those 3 words that changed everything: you have cancer. Maybe it was when your grown child walked out of your life and never came back, leaving a silence that echoes through every holiday, every birthday, every ordinary Tuesday when you reach for the phone to call them. Why am I asking you to relive that pain? Because what I'm about to tell you will transform every tear you've cried from a symbol of defeat into a badge of honor. You've been carrying a question for years, haven't you? Why me? Why did my husband of 47 years have to die first? Why did I lose my home in the recession when I was supposed to be enjoying my golden years? Why do my hands shake with arthritis when I still have so much left to give? You've whispered that question to God in the dark, convinced that somehow you deserved the pain. That's the enemy's greatest lie. He wants you to believe that suffering equals abandonment, that hardship means God forgot about you. But I'm here to shatter that deception with truth that will set your soul on fire. Look at Joseph, 17 years old, full of dreams and visions from God. His own brothers threw him into a pit and sold him into slavery. Can you imagine? Your own flesh and blood choosing money over your life. Then he was falsely accused by his master's wife and thrown into prison. Innocent, yet imprisoned. Faithful, yet forgotten. For 13 years, Joseph had every reason to believe God had abandoned him. 13 years of wondering if those dreams were just delusions of a naive boy. But Genesis 50-20 reveals the stunning truth. You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. Every betrayal was positioning. Every injustice was preparation. Every tear was watering the ground for a harvest Joseph couldn't even imagine. That's your story too, beloved. Every loss you've endured, every dollar you've had to scrape together, every night you've lain awake wondering how you'll pay for your medication, wasn't God punishing you? It was God preparing you. Think about a seed buried 6 inches deep in the cold, dark soil. To anyone looking down, that seed appears dead, forgotten, wasted. But beneath the surface, something magnificent is happening. The darkness isn't destroying the seed. It's awakening its potential. The pressure isn't crushing it. It's strengthening it. The silence isn't abandonment. It's incubation. You've been that seed, dear one, buried under financial pressure, health scares, loneliness that cuts deeper than any surgeon's knife. But God sees what others can't. While the world wrote you off as another struggling senior citizen, heaven was watching a warrior being forged in the furnace of affliction. The night you sat by your husband's hospital bed, watching machines keep him alive, you thought your heart would stop beating from the pain. But God was installing something in you that night, the ability to comfort other widows who think they'll never smile again. When you lost your job at 58 and couldn't find another one, when you had to sell your dream home and move into a 1-bedroom apartment, you thought your life was over. But God was teaching you that your security isn't in your bank account, it's in your relationship with the one who owns every bank in America. Every time you've gotten back up when staying down would have been easier, you've been building spiritual muscle that can't be developed in comfort. Every time you've chosen to trust God when circumstances screamed that He'd abandoned you, you've been earning a PhD in faith that no seminary could provide. That pain you survived, it wasn't random suffering, it was heaven's training ground. The fire didn't destroy you, it refined you. Like gold tested in the furnace, every trial burned away what was temporary and revealed what was eternal. Your faith, your character, your unshakable trust in a God who never leaves or forsakes His chosen ones. Here's what the enemy doesn't want you to know. Every person God uses greatly has been wounded deeply. David, the man after God's own heart, he spent years running for his life in caves. Paul, who wrote half the New Testament, he carried a thorn in his flesh that never went away. Even Jesus, the Son of God, was described as a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. Your scars aren't disqualifications, they're your credentials. Your wounds aren't proof that God doesn't love you. They're evidence that He trusts you with assignments that require someone who's been tested by fire and found faithful. The financial stress that kept you awake at night taught you to depend on God's provision when your own resources ran dry. The health crisis that terrified you showed you that your strength comes from the Lord, not from your physical body. The loneliness that felt like it would swallow you created space in your heart for God's presence in ways you never experienced when life was easy. You've graduated from the school of hard knocks with honors, and now God is ready to use everything you've learned to help others who are walking the same dark valleys you've already conquered. But here's the urgency that should grip your soul right now. Your preparation phase is ending, and your deployment phase is beginning. The weight you've carried for decades wasn't meant to crush you forever. It was meant to strengthen you for the assignment that's coming next. And in just a moment, I'll reveal why your season of waiting in the shadows is about to end, and why God is preparing to use your greatest pain to create your most powerful testimony. Today, not tomorrow, not next week, not when you feel ready. Today. Do you hear that word echoing in your spirit right now? That's not me speaking. That's the voice of the Almighty breaking through 60, 70, 80 years of delay and doubt. Hebrews 3:15 declares with thunderous authority, "Today, if you hear his voice, do not harden your hearts." Today, while your heart is still beating, while your mind can still think, while your voice can still pray. Today. How many tomorrows have you buried, chosen one? How many next weeks never came? How many when I'm ready moments turned into regrets at gravesides? You've been to enough funerals to know the truth that younger people haven't learned yet. Tomorrow is not promised to anyone, but today is yours. This moment is yours. This breath you just took is a gift from God's own lungs, and He's asking you to use it for His glory right now. Moses was 80 years old, tending sheep on Mount Horeb, just another Tuesday morning in the desert. Same rocks, same sand, same boring routine he'd followed for decades. The man probably woke up that morning thinking about lunch, not liberation. But God had other plans. A bush caught fire and didn't burn up. Moses could have walked past, could have thought, "I'm too old for mysteries," could have decided to investigate tomorrow. But something deep in his spirit said now, and that single moment of now changed the course of human history. Your burning bush moment is happening right now, not the spectacular kind with flames and voices, but the quiet kind where God whispers to your weary heart, "I still have work for you." Here's what breaks my heart. I know some of you watching this right now, you're sitting there thinking, "But I'm 75, but I'm 82, but I'm 90 and barely hanging on." And the enemy is screaming in your ear, "Too late, too old, too tired." That is a lie from the pit of hell. Sarah was 90 when God opened her womb. 90, in a time when life expectancy was half what it is today. When Abraham told her God promised them a child, she laughed. Not because she had great humor, but because the idea seemed impossible. Yet Genesis 21:1 records, "The Lord was gracious to Sarah, as he had said, and the Lord did for Sarah what he had promised." What God promised you decades ago hasn't expired. What he whispered to your heart when you were young isn't voided by your age. The calling you buried under years of disappointment is still alive, still breathing, still waiting for you to say yes. But here's the urgency that should shake you to your core. How many people died last year while waiting for tomorrow? How many saints went to glory with unfinished business because they thought they had more time? How many chosen ones took their assignments to the grave because they kept postponing what God said to do today? The morgues in America are full of people who were going to pray more tomorrow, going to forgive next week, going to make that phone call next month, going to step into their calling when they felt ready. They ran out of tomorrows. You haven't. You're still breathing. Your heart is still pumping. Your spirit is still stirring as you hear these words. That's not coincidence. That's divine mercy giving you one more chance to answer the call you've been avoiding. If you believe your moment is now, type 777 the comments. That's not superstition. That's alignment with God's perfect plan. Hit that like button not just as support, but as a spiritual declaration that you refuse to waste another day. Share this message because someone in your family, your neighborhood, your church needs to hear that their time isn't up. God is shaking you awake right now. Can you feel it? That restlessness in your chest, that stirring you can't explain. That's not anxiety. That's the Holy Spirit saying, "Get up, move, the harvest is ready, and I need workers who understand that every day is a gift, every breath is borrowed, every heartbeat is on heaven's time." The world tells you to slow down, to take it easy, to accept your limitations. But God is saying the opposite. He's saying, speed up. The time is short, the mission is urgent, and you're not retired from the kingdom of heaven. Anna the prophetess was 84 when she saw baby Jesus in the temple. 84 years old and still showing up every day, still believing, still watching for God to move, and when the moment came, she didn't miss it. Luke 2:38 says she spoke about the child to all who were looking forward to the redemption of Jerusalem. Your moment is here. Your redemption season has arrived. But unlike Anna, you don't have to wait in the temple. God is bringing the moment to you, right here, right now. Through these words penetrating your spirit like arrows of divine truth. Stop waiting for permission. Stop waiting for perfect conditions. Stop waiting for tomorrow. The God who created time is saying, your time is now. But the question that will haunt you, if you don't answer it today, is this. What will you tell Jesus when you meet him face to face, and he asks why you kept his assignments waiting? You think your story is over because the world told you so. But let me take you back to a dusty desert road where an 80-year-old man stood trembling before a burning bush. His name was Moses, and he had every reason to believe God was done with him. This man was a stutterer, a murderer, a fugitive who spent 40 years herding sheep in the wilderness while his people suffered in slavery. When God called him to deliver Israel, Moses said, "Please send someone else." He was 80 years old, convinced his failures disqualified him from greatness. But God wasn't looking for perfect. He was looking for available. Within months, this stammering old man was standing before Pharaoh, the most powerful ruler on earth, saying, "Let my people go." He parted the Red Sea. He led 2 million people through the desert. He spoke face to face with the Almighty. Moses didn't begin his real life until he was 80 years old. Now, let me tell you about a young girl named Hadassah, an orphan, no parents, no status, no reason to believe she mattered to anyone. The world saw a nobody, but God saw a somebody who would save an entire nation. One day she was Hadassah the orphan. The next, she was Queen Esther, positioned in a palace for such a time as this. When genocide threatened her people, this young woman who had lost everything risked everything. "If I perish, she declared. But she didn't perish. She saved a nation. An orphan became the hero of one of the greatest rescue stories in human history. And David, the forgotten son, the youngest of 8 brothers. So insignificant his father didn't even bother to call him when the prophet Samuel came looking for the next king. While his brothers stood proud and tall, David was in the fields with smelly sheep, dreaming impossible dreams. But God doesn't look at the outward appearance, he looks at the heart. This shepherd boy, who felt invisible to his own family, became the giant killer, the king, the man after God's own heart. His psalms still comfort millions today, 3,000 years later. You're thinking, but that was biblical times. God doesn't work that way anymore. Let me shock you with the truth. He works that way right now, in modern America, with people just like you. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison. 27 years. The world wrote him off. His youth was gone. His middle age was gone. At 70, he walked out of that cell and became the most respected leader on earth. He didn't just survive his imprisonment, he transformed it into authority that changed a nation. Do you know Anna Mary Robertson Moses? Probably not by that name, but you know Grandma Moses. She was a farm wife in upstate New York who never thought about art until arthritis made it too painful to embroider. At 78 years old, she picked up a paintbrush for the first time. 78. When most people are settling into their final decline, Grandma Moses was just getting started. She painted over 1,500 pictures. Museums fought to display her work. Presidents invited her to the White House. She became one of America's most celebrated artists, and she didn't even begin until her golden years. Here's one that will shake you to your core. Harlan Sanders was 65 years old, living on Social Security, when he decided to franchise his chicken recipe. 65. He was rejected 1,009 times, 1,009 failures. But on attempt number 1,010, someone said yes. Kentucky Fried Chicken was born, and Colonel Sanders became a household name at an age when the world expected him to fade away. Do you see the pattern? Chosen one. Do you feel that fire starting to burn in your chest? God specializes in using the overlooked, the written off, the ones who've been counted out by a world that worships youth and fears aging. The same God who spoke to Moses at 80 is speaking to you today. The same God who made Esther a queen when she felt like nobody is making you royal in your golden years. The same God who took David from shepherd to king is calling you from invisible to invincible. But here's what breaks my heart. Here's what keeps me awake at night praying for people exactly like you. You've bought the lie that your season is over. You've accepted the world's verdict that you're past your prime. You've let society convince you that your dreams have an expiration date. Stop believing that demonic deception. Moses could have said, "I'm too old." Esther could have said, "I'm just an orphan." David could have said, "I'm too young." Mandela could have said, "I'm too damaged." Grandma Moses could have said, "I'm too untrained." Colonel Sanders could have said, "I've been rejected too many times." But they didn't. They said yes to God's impossible plan, and their names echo through history. Your story isn't over. Your chapter titled, "The Best Is Yet to Come," is about to begin. The same God who wasn't finished with them isn't finished with you. Your next chapter may be your greatest chapter. The question burning in heaven right now is this: when God calls your name, will you answer like Moses, like Esther, like David? Or will you let fear write the ending to a story that was supposed to be legendary? Close your eyes for just a moment. Picture yourself standing in a long, dimly lit hallway. The walls are covered with photographs of your entire life. There's your wedding day, your children's first steps, Christmas mornings filled with laughter. But as you walk further, the photographs change. They show the hospital rooms, the funeral parlors, the empty chairs at your dinner table. You've been walking this hallway for years, haven't you? Decades, perhaps. Each step heavier than the last. Each memory, a reminder of what you've lost, what you've left behind, what you'll never get back. But now, at the end of this hallway, there's something that stops you cold. A door. Not like any door you've ever seen. This door is glowing with a warm golden light that seems to pulse with the rhythm of your heartbeat. The light isn't harsh or blinding. It's gentle, inviting, like the first sunrise after the longest winter of your life. You've seen doors before, haven't you? Doors that slammed shut when you needed them most. The door to your dream job that closed when they said you were overqualified, code for too old. The door to your children's lives that barely creaks open for holidays anymore. The door to intimacy that sealed shut when you buried your spouse. But this door is different. This door is open. Listen to what Jesus promised in Revelation 3:8. "See, I have placed before you an open door that no one can shut." Not will place, not might place, has placed, past tense, already done, already waiting. You prayed for 30 years for your prodigal son to come home. You waited through sleepless nights, wondering if you failed as a parent. You cried until you had no tears left, begging God to soften your child's heart. And now the door is open. You waited 60 years for someone to see your worth, to value your wisdom, to ask for your opinion like it mattered. You survived being invisible in boardrooms, ignored in conversations, dismissed by doctors who talked to your children instead of you, and now the door is open. You cried yourself to sleep after another diagnosis, another pill bottle added to your nightstand collection, another specialist who shook their head and said there's nothing more they can do. You wondered if God still heard your prayers for healing, if he still cared about your pain, and now the door is open. But here's what's going to shock you. You've been standing in front of this door for months, maybe years. You've seen the light seeping underneath. You've felt the warmth radiating from the other side, but you haven't walked through. Why? Because someone convinced you that doors like this don't open for people like you anymore. Someone whispered that opportunities are for the young, that miracles are for the healthy, that breakthroughs are for those who haven't made as many mistakes as you have. That voice is lying. The door isn't just open, chosen one. It's wide open. The hinges aren't rusty from disuse. They're oiled and ready. The threshold isn't cracked and dangerous. It's smooth and sure. The light on the other side isn't flickering like it might burn out. It's steady, eternal, powered by the same God who spoke the stars into existence. Do you know what's on the other side of that door? Your grandchildren finally understanding the depth of your love and the treasure of your stories. Your finances shifting from barely making ends meet to being able to bless others. Your body receiving strength that defies your medical records. Your heart finding peace that surpasses every loss you've endured. But there's more. Behind that door is the conversation you've been waiting to have with the child who cut you out of their life. Behind that door is the ministry you thought you were too old to start. Behind that door is the relationship you thought you'd never find after being widowed. Behind that door is the version of yourself you've been praying to become. The enemy wants you to believe that door is locked from the inside, that you need permission to walk through, that you have to earn your way into God's blessings. But Jesus already turned the handle. He already pushed it wide. He already stepped aside and said, "Come on through." The only thing standing between you and your breakthrough is your decision to move your feet. The only barrier between your current struggle and your destined victory is the 3 feet of space between where you're standing and where God is calling you to step. You've spent decades knocking on doors that wouldn't budge. You've exhausted yourself trying to force open opportunities that weren't meant for you. You've bloodied your knuckles pounding on barriers that were never going to move. But this door requires no knocking, no forcing, no begging. It simply requires faith to walk forward. But what's on the other side of that door? What exactly is God calling you to step into that could possibly be worth leaving everything familiar behind? But wait. Right now, as God's truth settles into your spirit, do you feel it? That sudden wave of doubt crashing over you? That voice whispering, "This sounds too good to be true. You're too old. You've missed too much. It's too late for miracles in your life." That's not your voice, chosen one. That's the enemy's last desperate attempt to drown you before your breakthrough. Listen to me with every fiber of your being. You are under spiritual attack right now, not because you're weak, but because you're dangerous. The moment you started believing God still has plans for you, hell panicked. The second you began to hope again, demons started scrambling. When you dared to think your prayers still matter, the kingdom of darkness declared war. But here's what Satan doesn't want you to know. He only fights battles he's afraid of losing. Remember Peter walking on water in Matthew 14? There he was, defying gravity, stepping on impossibility, moving toward Jesus with supernatural confidence. But then what happened? The wind picked up. The waves grew higher. The storm got louder. And Peter made the fatal mistake. He took his eyes off Jesus and looked at the circumstances. The Bible says in verse 30, when he saw the wind, he was afraid and, beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Dear chosen one, you are Peter right now. You've stepped out of the boat of doubt and started walking on the waters of faith. But the enemy is stirring up every wind, every wave, every distraction he can muster to make you look away from Jesus. What are your waves? Is it that medical report that says your time is running out? Is it that bank statement showing you can't afford to dream anymore? Is it your children who treat you like you're already gone? Is it the mirror that shows you a face you barely recognize, a body that betrays you daily? Those aren't just circumstances. Those are weapons of mass distraction designed to pull your focus off the one who's calling you to walk on water at 87 years old. The enemy knows something about your destiny that you're just beginning to remember. God's most powerful moves happen through the people the world has written off. Moses at 80, Abraham at 99, Sarah at 90, Anna at 84. Every one of them faced waves that screamed, "You're too old. It's too late. Sink now." But they kept their eyes on God. Here's the shocking truth the enemy is terrified you'll discover. Every distraction in your life right now is proof that your breakthrough is closer than you think. Satan doesn't waste time attacking empty vessels. He doesn't deploy his fiercest demons against people who pose no threat. The intensity of the spiritual warfare around you is direct evidence of the magnitude of what God is about to do through you. Think about it. When was the last time you felt this attacked? When did doubt hit this hard? When did fear sound this loud? It's because hell recognizes something heaven is revealing. Your season of walking on water has begun, but you have to make a choice. Right now, this moment, will you look at the waves of your age, your health, your limitations, your losses, or will you fix your gaze on the Jesus who's calling you to step into impossible faith? The voice of distraction is loud, but the voice of direction is clear. Distraction says, look at what you've lost. Direction says, look at what I'm giving you. Distraction screams, remember your failures. Direction whispers, forget what's behind, reach for what's ahead. Every morning you wake up is God saying, I'm not done with you yet. Every breath in your lungs is heaven declaring, your story isn't over. Every beat of your heart is the Almighty drumming out the rhythm of your next chapter. But Satan wants you focused on the EKG instead of the God who controls your heartbeat. He wants you staring at the pills on your nightstand instead of the one who is your healer. He wants you counting your limitations instead of counting your blessings. Here's what's happening in the spiritual realm as I speak. Every distraction that has tormented you, every wave that has threatened to drown your faith, every storm that has raged around your life is beginning to calm. Not because the circumstances have changed, but because your focus is shifting from the temporary to the eternal, from the problem to the problem solver, from the storm to the storm calmer. Matthew 14:32 says, "And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down." The storm didn't stop because Peter gave up and got back in the boat. The storm stopped because Jesus was in control the entire time. Jesus is in control of your storm too. Every distraction was meant to drown you, but every distraction is sinking even now. Keep your eyes on Jesus and you will walk on water. Declare in the comments right now, I will not sink. Say it with authority. Say it with faith. Say it like someone who remembers that the same God who parted the Red Sea is parting the waters beneath your feet. But understanding spiritual warfare is only the beginning, because once you recognize the enemy's tactics, God is ready to reveal the weapon He's placed in your hands that makes you unstoppable. The world has written you off, hasn't it? They see your Medicare card and think you're done contributing. They see your Social Security check and assume you're just waiting to die. They watch you move a little slower, speak a little softer, and decide your voice doesn't matter anymore. But God sees something entirely different. While America throws away its elders like yesterday's newspaper, heaven is preparing to unleash the most powerful spiritual force this nation has ever witnessed. You think you're too old to make a difference. Moses was 80 when he split the Red Sea. You believe your best days are behind you? Anna was 84 when she proclaimed the coming of the Messiah to all Jerusalem. Your wrinkles aren't signs of decay. They're lines of wisdom carved by the hand of the Almighty. Your gray hair isn't evidence of decline. It's a crown of glory earned through decades of trusting God when everything around you fell apart. Listen to me, chosen one. God didn't preserve you through the Kennedy assassination, Vietnam, Watergate, 9/11s, and COVID, just so you could fade quietly into obscurity. He kept you alive through every crisis, every loss, every heartbreak, because He knew this moment would come, the moment when America would need voices that have been tested by fire and found faithful. You want to know why your grandchildren are lost? Why this generation is drowning in anxiety, depression, and hopelessness? Because they've never seen real faith in action. They've never witnessed someone who knows God personally, not just religiously. They've never been in the presence of someone who has walked through the valley of the shadow of death and come out singing. That someone is you. The church today is full of people who know about God but don't know God. They have information but no transformation. They can quote scripture but can't quote personal experience with the living God. But you've seen Him show up when the doctors said there was no hope. You've watched Him provide when your bank account hit zero. You felt His arms hold you when you buried the love of your life. Your assignment isn't to sit quietly in the back pew until Jesus comes. Your assignment is to be a lighthouse in the storm that's about to hit this nation. Think about a lighthouse for a moment. It doesn't chase ships. It doesn't shout at the ocean. It doesn't fight the storm. It simply stands firm on solid rock and shines its light into the darkness. Ships 100 miles away can see that light and steer toward safety. That's you, chosen one. You don't need to chase your family members who've walked away from God. You don't need to argue with a culture that's lost its way. You don't need to fight every battle. You just need to shine. Your prayers carry more weight than 1,000 sermons preached by someone who's never been broken. Your words of wisdom cut deeper than any motivational speech from someone who's never buried a dream. Your quiet faith speaks louder than all the noise of this generation's spiritual emptiness. But here's what breaks my heart. Too many of you have dimmed your light because the world told you to be quiet. You've stopped praying with authority because someone convinced you that your prayers don't matter. You've stopped speaking truth because political correctness made you afraid to offend. God is saying today, turn up your light. Pray with the authority I've given you. Speak the truth I've burned into your heart through 70, 80, 90 years of walking with me. Isaiah 41:10 thunders from heaven. Do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand. Do not fear that you're too old. God is with you. Do not be dismayed that your body is weak. He is your strength. Do not worry that your voice shakes. His Spirit will uphold every word you speak in His name. This generation needs to see what authentic faith looks like. They need to witness someone who doesn't crumble when life hits hard. They need to be around someone who has joy that doesn't depend on circumstances, peace that doesn't require perfect health, and hope that doesn't fade when the stock market crashes. Your adult children are watching you, even when they pretend they're not. Your grandchildren are studying your response to crisis, even if they never admit it. Your neighbors are observing how you handle loss, how you face fear, how you deal with disappointment. You are their lighthouse, whether you realize it or not. But here's the urgency burning in my spirit. Lighthouses that don't shine become monuments to failure. If you keep your light hidden, if you keep your wisdom to yourself, if you keep your prayers quiet, you become part of the darkness instead of the solution to it. America is in the storm of its life right now. Families are being torn apart. Faith is under attack. Truth is being twisted. Hope is dying in the hearts of millions. And in this chaos, God is looking for lighthouses. Steady, strong, unshakable, shining. You are not just a survivor of your generation's struggles. You are a lighthouse in this storm. And the world needs your light more desperately than you could ever imagine. The question that will define your legacy is this. Will you keep your light hidden under the bushel of insecurity, or will you let it shine with the full power of decades spent walking with the living God? If you're ready to rise into your assignment, if you're ready to be the lighthouse God created you to be, type in the comments, I am chosen. Because chosen one, your light has never been more needed than it is right now. How many nights have you prayed and heard nothing back? How many times did heaven feel silent when you needed God's voice the most? How many tears have you cried into your pillow, wondering if the Almighty went deaf to your desperate pleas? Dear chosen one, I need you to lean in close, because what I'm about to tell you will change how you hear silence forever. You've been on your knees for decades. You've worn out the carpet beside your bed with prayers for your prodigal children. You've begged God to heal your spouse before cancer took them. You've pleaded for financial breakthrough while the bills piled higher than your faith felt strong. And what did you get back? Nothing. Silence. The sound of your own echo in what felt like an empty room. You've started to wonder if God moved away and forgot to leave a forwarding address. Maybe He's too busy with younger believers who have Instagram-worthy testimonies. Maybe your prayers are too ordinary, too repetitive, too desperate for the Creator of the universe to notice. That's exactly what the enemy wants you to believe. But what if silence was never absence? What if silence was preparation? Picture this. You walk into an art studio and see a master painter stepping back from his canvas. For long minutes, he doesn't touch the brush. He doesn't add color. He doesn't make a single mark. To the untrained eye, it looks like he's doing nothing. But what's really happening? He's studying every line, every shadow, every space between the strokes. He's seeing the bigger picture that you can't see yet. When you see nothing happening, the artist is perfecting the masterpiece. The silence you've interpreted as abandonment has actually been the sound of God, positioning every piece of your life for a breakthrough so magnificent that if he had moved one day sooner, you wouldn't have been ready to receive it. Listen to what happened to Lazarus. Jesus loved him. Jesus had the power to heal him. Yet when Lazarus got sick, where was Jesus? He stayed away for 2 more days while his friend died. The family wept. The mourners gathered. They buried Lazarus in a tomb and rolled a stone across the entrance. 4 days of silence, 4 days of what looked like divine neglect. But John 11:4 tells us Jesus' shocking response. This sickness will not end in death. No, it is for God's glory, so that God's Son may be glorified through it. The silence wasn't cruelty, it was strategy. Jesus wasn't late. He was right on time for a miracle so powerful it would shake the foundations of hell itself. Your silence has an expiration date. Your waiting has a purpose. Every day God delayed his answer. He was orchestrating circumstances you couldn't see, moving people you'd never met, preparing blessings you couldn't imagine. But here's where it gets personal. Here's where the silence becomes sacred. God didn't go quiet because he stopped caring. He went quiet because he was listening to the sound of your faith being refined in the furnace of uncertainty, listening to your heart, learning to worship him not for what he gives, but for who he is, listening to your spirit growing stronger in the dark, places where only trust can survive. The prophet Habakkuk cried out in chapter 1, verse 2, "How long, Lord, must I call for help, but you do not listen?" Sound familiar? But by chapter 3, verse 17, something had shifted. Though the fig tree does not bud, and there are no grapes on the vines, yet I will rejoice in the Lord. What changed? Not his circumstances, his perspective. The silence taught him something that answered prayers never could, that God is worthy of worship even when life isn't working out. You've been in Habakkuk's school. The curriculum was silence. The textbook was trust. And you're about to graduate with honors because you chose to keep believing when you had every reason to quit. Right now, this very moment, heaven is erupting with activity on your behalf. Angels are moving obstacles you can't see. Divine appointments are being arranged with people you haven't met. Resources are being redirected toward your breakthrough. The silence wasn't God ignoring you. It was God coordinating the greatest comeback of your life. In 1 Kings 19:11-12, Elijah expected God in the earthquake, the wind, the fire. But God came in a gentle whisper. Your breakthrough won't sound like thunder. It will sound like a whisper so soft, so gentle, that only those who learn to listen in the silence will hear it. The silence wasn't punishment. It was preparation for intimacy. God was teaching you to hear his heartbeat, not just his words. To recognize his presence, not just his presence. But here's the urgency that's gripping my spirit right now. Your season of silence is about to shift into your season of speaking. God is about to give you a voice that commands storms, breaks chains, and speaks life into dead situations. But first, you had to learn that his whisper is more powerful than the world's shouting. If you're ready to trust that every silent night was building toward your brightest day, type "I trust you, Lord" in the comments. Declare it not just with your fingers, but with your faith. Because the God who was silent was never absent, and the God who was preparing is about to perform. But the question that will determine whether you receive what's coming is this: can you trust the whisper you're about to hear, even when it doesn't sound like what you expected? Do you hear that? Listen. In the stillness of your room right now, there's a sound most people miss. It's the ticking of God's prophetic clock, and chosen one, it just struck your appointed hour. Picture an antique grandfather clock standing in the corner of a quiet parlor. For 70 years, maybe 80, maybe 90, it's been ticking steadily. Tick, tock, tick, tock, tick. Hour after hour, day after day, year after year. The hands moved so slowly, You wondered if they were moving at all. You watched other people's clocks chime at noon while yours remained silent. You saw their midnight celebrations while your hands seemed frozen in time. But tonight, something changed. Tonight, the pendulum swings with divine precision, and the chimes are about to ring. How many nights have you lain awake wondering if God forgot to wind your clock? How many mornings did you wake up feeling like you were running on borrowed time while everyone else was living in their prime time? You've watched your children's clocks strike success. You've heard your grandchildren's clocks chime with opportunity, and you whispered in the darkness, "God, when is my time?" The devil has been your timekeeper for too long, telling you that your clock stopped years ago. He's convinced you that the only sound you'll hear now is the flat line of finished dreams and fading hope. He's made you believe that your best moments are dusty memories in a photo album, not living promises waiting to be fulfilled. But God's clock doesn't run on earthly time. His timepiece doesn't tick to the rhythm of retirement age or social security checks. The Almighty's clock is set to eternity, and on heaven's schedule, you're not late, you're not forgotten, you're right on time. Habakkuk 2-3 declares with thunderous authority, "The vision awaits its appointed time. At the end it will speak and not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not delay." Did you catch that? It will not delay. Not maybe it will come, or if you're lucky it might happen. It will come, because God's clock is never slow and never fast. It's always precisely on time. Every tick of your heartbeat has been counting down to this moment. Every tock of your breathing has been marking time until now. That prayer you prayed at 25? Tick. The dream you surrendered at 45? Tock. The promise you almost stopped believing at 65? Tick. Every second of your life has been building toward this divine appointment. You want to know what time it is on God's clock right now? It's breakthrough o'clock. It's miracle 30. It's your appointed hour striking 12. Moses thought his clock had stopped at 80 when he was tending sheep in the desert. But God's clock was just winding up for the greatest deliverance in human history. Sarah thought menopause meant the end of her reproductive timeline. But heaven's hourglass was just turning over for a miracle baby at 90. David thought his anointing had expired after years of running from King Saul, but the prophetic clock was simply ticking toward his coronation. Right now, this very second, spiritual dominoes are falling in the unseen realm. Every prayer you've prayed has been a tick. Every tear you've cried has been a tock. Every act of faith has been winding the spring of God's purposes tighter and tighter until this moment when the energy releases in supernatural breakthrough. The clock that seemed broken was actually being divinely calibrated. The hands that appeared stuck were being positioned for perfect timing. The chimes that you thought were silent have been building toward this thunderous announcement. Your time is now. Can you feel it? That quickening in your spirit, that sudden awareness that something monumental is shifting. That's not your imagination. That's the sound of heaven's alarm clock going off over your life. The world's clock says you're in the fourth quarter of life. God's clock says you're entering sudden death overtime where miracles happen and victories are won. Earth's timepiece counts down toward the grave. Heaven's chronometer counts up toward glory. Every rejection was right on time to redirect you. Every closed door was perfectly timed to protect you. Every delay was precisely scheduled to prepare you. Every disappointment was divinely orchestrated to position you for this moment when God says, "Now, right now, this is your time." The grandfather clock in heaven has been ticking your entire life toward this appointment. The pendulum has swung through decades of preparation. The weights have been building pressure through years of testing. And now, chosen one, now the bell is ringing. Ecclesiastes 3:1 says, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." Your season of waiting is over. Your time of wondering has ended. Your purpose is no longer a question mark. It's an exclamation point echoing through eternity. If you feel the clock striking in your spirit right now, if something deep inside you just awakened to divine timing, if the hands of destiny are moving in your soul, type "My time is now." in the comments. Don't hesitate, don't wait. The clock is chiming, and this is your moment to respond. Because what happens next will prove that God's timing isn't just perfect, it's explosive. Now, I need to tell you something that will shatter every comfortable lie you've been living. You think the fire in your life was meant to destroy you. You think those decades of suffering were God's punishment. You think those nights when your world burned down around you meant He had abandoned you. You couldn't be more wrong. Look at your hands right now. Go ahead, look at them. Those lines, those age spots, those trembling fingers that can't grip like they used to. The world sees decay, but God sees something that will take your breath away. He sees hands that have been through the refiner's fire and came out holding pure gold. 1 Peter 1-7 declares with thunderous authority, "These trials show that your faith is genuine, more precious than gold, refined by fire." Not silver, not bronze, gold, the most precious metal on earth. And that's what your suffering has been producing in you. But let me ask you something that might cut to the bone. What if every tragedy in your life wasn't random? What if your husband's sudden heart attack at 62 wasn't meaningless? What if your daughter's addiction that destroyed your family wasn't just bad luck? What if that financial collapse that wiped out your retirement wasn't cruel fate? What if it was all fire sent by a God who saw something in you so valuable, so precious, that He was willing to put you through the furnace to refine it? You've been living in the ashes of what burned down, mourning what was lost. But ashes tell a story of fire that has already done its work, and I'm here to tell you that fire had 3 purposes in your life. The first fire was the fire that destroys. Every comfortable illusion had to burn. Your faith in money had to be incinerated when the stock market crashed in 2008. Your trust in people had to be reduced to ash when your best friend betrayed you. Your confidence in your health had to be consumed when the doctor spoke those terrifying words. This fire wasn't cruel. It was surgical. God was burning away everything you thought you needed so you could discover what you actually need. Him. Only Him. But the fire didn't stop there. The second fire was the fire that refines. While you thought you were being destroyed, you were being purified. Every tear you cried was washing away impurities. Every sleepless night was tempering your spirit like steel. Every moment you chose to trust God, when everything looked hopeless, was removing dross from your faith until what remained was pure, unshakable, indestructible. Do you remember the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, thrown into a furnace heated 7 times hotter than normal? The soldiers who threw them in died from the heat, but these 3 men walked around in the fire like it was a spring day. And when the king looked into that furnace, he didn't see 3 men, he saw 4. And the 4th one looked like the Son of God. That 4th man has been walking with you in your fire too. You thought you were alone, but Jesus has been in every flame, every trial, every midnight hour when you wanted to die. The fire didn't consume you because He was there, protecting what mattered, refining what was valuable, preparing you for something you never imagined. Which brings us to the 3rd fire, the fire that ignites. Right now, at this very moment, there's a flame burning in your chest that wasn't there when you were young. It's not the fire of ambition or the flames of passion. This is different. This is holy fire, sacred fire, the fire of someone who has been tested and found faithful, the fire of someone who knows God, not just as Savior, but as the one who walks with you through hell and brings you out victorious. But here's what's about to shock you to your core. Here's what the enemy has been desperately trying to hide from you. The fire didn't consume you. The fire revealed you. The fire has anointed you. You are not ashes. You are a flame. And that flame burning in your spirit right now, it's not for you. It's not to keep you warm in your final years. It's not to comfort you as you fade away. That flame is a torch that God has lit to set others free from the very darkness you escaped. Every widow who looks at you and sees hope instead of despair. Every broken heart that finds courage in your story. Every person drowning in the same waters you survived. They need to see your flame. They need to witness what happens when someone goes through the fire and comes out not as a victim, but as a victor. The young people in your family think they know everything, but they've never been tested by real fire. The middle-aged people in your church think they're strong, but they've never walked through the valley of the shadow of death. You have. You carry something they don't have. Authority forged in flames, wisdom tempered by trials, faith proven by fire. Moses was 80 years old when God set him ablaze with purpose to deliver an entire nation. His age wasn't his limitation, it was his qualification. Every year in the wilderness had been adding fuel to the fire that would eventually consume Pharaoh's resistance and part the Red Sea. Your years haven't dimmed your flame, they've been feeding it. Every loss taught you what really matters. Every betrayal showed you who you can really trust. Every health scare reminded you that life is precious and time is short. Every tear refined your compassion. Every heartbreak deepened your love. You are not a flickering candle about to be blown out. You are a raging bonfire that's about to illuminate the darkness in ways that will leave this generation speechless. And that flame is about to set others free. Beloved chosen one, as we reach the end of this sacred encounter, I need you to carry 3 eternal truths with you, like precious jewels in your heart. First, remember this: your pain was never punishment. It was preparation. Every tear you've shed, every sleepless night you've endured, every moment you felt forgotten has been weaving together a tapestry of purpose that only heaven could design. Your scars are not marks of defeat. They are evidence of divine trust. Second, the fire you've walked through didn't destroy you. It revealed you. What others see as your sunset years, God sees as your power years. Your age is not your expiration date. It's your graduation into an authority that can only come from walking with the Almighty through every season of life. Third, you are not ashes waiting to be scattered. You are a flame appointed to ignite hope in a generation that has forgotten what real faith looks like. The flame burning in your chest right now carries the power to set others free from the very darkness you escaped. But hear me clearly, you are not walking this path alone. The same God who met you in your darkest valley is still working in your life right now, in this very moment. He hasn't brought you this far to abandon you. Romans 8:31 reminds us, if God is for us, who can be against us? That's not just a verse, that's your reality. And beyond God's presence, you have a family right here. Thousands of chosen ones just like you, carrying the same calling, feeling the same fire, walking the same narrow road that leads to supernatural impact. We see you. We understand you. We will stand with you in prayer. So let me ask you this final question, and let it settle deep in your spirit. Now that you know the fire in your life was divine refinement, now that you understand your age is your greatest asset, now that you've felt God's call burning in your bones, what will you do with this revelation? Before I release you into your destiny, let me place my hand on your shoulder through these words and pray over your life with the authority of someone who has walked with God for decades. Heavenly Father, I lift up every precious soul who has stayed with us through this message. Lord, you see their hearts, you know their struggles, you've counted every tear they've cried in secret. Right now, I pray that you would breathe fresh wind into their weary bones. Where they feel depleted, restore them. Where they feel forgotten, remind them of their worth. Where they feel overwhelmed by their calling, be their strength. God, open doors that no man can shut. Provide resources they haven't even thought to ask for. Send divine connections that will accelerate their purpose. Give them dreams and visions that will clarify their next steps. Surround them with people who see their value, who honor their wisdom, who will walk alongside them without trying to dim their light. Most of all, Father, let them feel your presence right now. Let them know in their spirit that you are proud of how they've endured, how they've remained faithful, how they've kept their hearts tender despite the hardness of life. You are not finished with them. Their greatest chapter is still being written. In Jesus' mighty name, I seal this prayer and release them into their destiny. Amen. I want you to know that this message, this moment, this community, it's all here for you. Drop a comment below and tell us what God spoke to your heart today. Ask questions, share your story. Let us know how we can pray for you specifically. You don't have to face tomorrow alone. And if this word has set something on fire in your spirit, please share it with someone who needs to hear that their best days aren't behind them, they're ahead of them. There's someone in your life right now who feels exactly like you felt when you first clicked on this video. Be the vessel that carries this hope to them. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey. Thank you for opening your heart to receive what heaven wanted to pour into you tonight. If you haven't already, please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because your awakening journey is just beginning, and God has so much more He wants to reveal to you. Until we meet again, walk in the authority of who you are. You are chosen. You are refined by fire. You are a flame that will set others free. Go in peace, go in power, and go in the unshakable knowledge that your finest hour is not behind you, it's right now. God bless you, chosen one. Your flame is unstoppable.